Mr. Barnes here again, bringing another math video. I don't know what it is, I can't speak today. This video is on basically my opinion of why the unit circle sucks. So, I'm sure if you're watching this video in your class now, either me or some other math teacher, somewhere around North America or Newfoundland or wherever you are, has told you memorize the unit circle. So, I'm going to teach you a way that we never have to memorize the unit circle, and this is a way that I share with a lot of my students. And the thing I keep in mind is that all the students I teach aren't necessarily going to be math teachers. They aren't going to necessarily even do a math degree. They don't never want to do math in university. They might not require any mathematics. So the reason they're in my class might be for one reason and one reason only, and that is to get the required acceptance to the program that they're doing. So when I keep that in mind, I have an obligation to them to try and make sure that they pass math and get as good as mark as possible. So unit circle is a prime example of how you can make things easier in math for people to do better on assessments. So in your class, I would imagine that your teacher has probably told you that you must memorize the unit circle. So if you're not familiar with the unit circle, basically it's a circle that we envision in the coordinate plane, and it starts at the point 1, 0. So this point right here in purple rotates around the circle. And as it rotates, it reaches a couple special angles. So those special angles are 30, 60, and in between both of those, I should have wrote this one first, 45. So when we reach certain points around the circle that have to do with 30, 60, and 45, we get special angles that happen. So let's do 30 degrees. So at 30 degrees, this might be a bit big for 30. What happens is this point right here has the exact values of root 3 over 2 and 1/2. And then if you go to 60 degrees, I'll do 60 because it's a bit hard to do 45 in between there. So 60 degrees looks like that. So that entire angle right there is 60. You get another special point, which is 1/2 and root 3 over 2. So another thing you've probably learned in your math courses is that for the unit circle, x is equal to cos theta, and y is equal to sine theta. So sometimes you might see these formulas instead. X is equal to r cos theta, where r in our case is the radius of the circle, so it's just 1. So that's why I never put it there. And this one is r sine theta. So if I want to figure out the coordinates anywhere around the unit circle, if I don't have any means of doing that, I have to memorize it. So there's actually another one in between here that would be 45, and I'll just draw it, I won't write it in. That would be root 2 over 2, root 2 over 2. So if I was on a test and my teacher said, what is sine of 120 degrees? So if I'm going to rely on the unit circle, this is what I have to do. I first of all need to visualize what sine, or I need to draw what sine of 120 is, or 120. So the angle might look like something like this. Horrible drawing. Can I undo that maybe? No. Let's see. Let me erase it, try it again. So I need to visualize what sine of 120 is, or draw it. Just like this. Then I have to do that. There it is, that looks better. So there it is. So that's 120. So then I need to figure out what my reference angle is. My reference angle for that is the distance between the x-axis and the coordinate, or the terminal arm. So that's 30, or 60, sorry, 60. So 120 plus 60 is 180, gets me all the way to the axis. So then I have to think about, well, what's sine of 60? So then I go back to my unit circle, which I have memorized. So 60 is right here, and sine corresponds with y, so that's root 3 over 2. So then I have to go back to sine of 120. So now I have to think about what's the sign as in SIGN, negative or positive, of sine in 120 in the second quadrant where this guy is. So then I go with my CAST rule, CAST. So we're in S, sine is positive, so I get sine of 120 is a positive root 3 over 2. So that is a lot of work to figure out what sine of 120 is. So what I tell my students is, that's a great process. If you had a long answer question, I'd expect you to be able to do that, but I don't expect you to be able to memorize the unit circle. Or maybe not, I don't expect you to be able to. You definitely can. It's just that why bother when we can do it another way? Now, a lot of students prefer to do that. That's up to them. I give them the option. I show them how to do it, show them what the unit circle is. They make the decision. What I suggest and what a lot of my students have done is they know there are basically 4 possibilities for answers. Root 3 over 2, root 2 over 2. Of course, 1/2, but we know what that one is. Root 3 and root 3 over 3. So root 3 over 2 has a decimal approximation 0.88, dot, dot, dot. And root 2 over 2 is 0.707, dot, dot, dot. Root 3 is 1.73, dot, dot, dot. And root 3 over 3 is 0.577, dot, dot, dot. So these 4 decimal approximations will cover you off any angle. So if I want to do sine of 120, just as an example like what we just did, instead of going through that whole jazz, if this was a multiple choice question, I didn't have to show any workings, sine of 120 on my calculator gives me a decimal approximation of 0.866. Wouldn't even write it down. Now I know that 0.866, go back to my decimal approximations, is root 3 over 2. So instead of memorizing a whole unit circle, I have those easy decimal approximations memorized. And then if someone asks me, what's the coordinate of a point on the unit circle that's rotated 150 degrees? So I can go sine of 150, throw it in my calculator. Sine 150 is 1/2. Cos 150. So I know what it's going to be. It's going to be root 3 over 2. If I got sine to be 1/2, it has to be root 3 over 2. So it will show up in my calculator 0.866. Now it'll show up negative because we're in the second quadrant. So I wouldn't have to use the CAST rule. It would show up negative 0.866 in my calculator. That tells me it's negative. That's all I need to know. Therefore, my point is negative root 3 over 2, 1/2. So I don't have to go through the process of memorizing unit circle, visualizing it, or the first thing I do when I get into a test is write down this big complicated unit circle. I can just use my decimal approximations to figure out those exact values. So that's how most of my students do it. Some teachers may not like it, but I personally think it makes it much easier for students. That's why I say do it. Alright guys, hopefully this video helps you in your math courses. I'll see you guys in class. Thank you for watching, and see you guys later.